What's up, everybody? CJ Thomas. It is Would You Eat It Wednesday, and today's topic is Tate's gluten-free cookies. Would you eat it? I want to know. And I asked my people. Some of them said, once in a while you can get a cookie, what are the ingredients, this kind of thing. And it makes me happy because we're kind of on the right path now because we're thinking about ingredients. We want to know what's actually in this product. And we're honing in on one specific cookie today because it was a specific request. And if you make specific requests, odds are I might get to it at some point. So Tate's gluten-free cookies. Here's what we want to think about, okay? So when we're talking about a cookie that's gluten-free or any product that says fat-free or sugar-free or anything free, it talks about what's not in the product. Whenever they're talking about what they omitted, they're probably covering something else up. Now, that's not always the case. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but we have to be wary of this kind of stuff. So obviously, gluten is one of these catch-all terms right now that gets people kind of scared and afraid of eating certain products. But if it's gluten-free, maybe it's good for me. Well, obviously that's not the case. Just the absence of gluten doesn't make something good for you. And particularly when we're talking about a cookie, we know that it is still a cookie no matter what, right? Hopefully. Okay, so cookies, maybe Tate's cookies, maybe Tate's gluten-free cookies are better on the cookie scale, but let's keep this entire conversation in perspective right now because we are still talking about a cookie, okay? So at some point there's some kind of sugar or sweetener in this product because who's gonna eat a cookie that doesn't have some kind of sweetness in it, right? Okay, then it ceases to be a cookie. So, I pulled up Tate's website, I looked at the ingredients, and they've got an assortment of different flavors and different types of cookies, and to be frank, I'm less than impressed here, okay? So you got chocolate chip cookies. The first ingredient is semi-sweet chocolate chips, which in itself has a list of sub-ingredients inside of that, which aren't very impressive. You got unbleached flour, which is going to be my main harping point in this video, okay? This flour, this wheat flour that we're getting in so many processed foods, so many products these days. Now people say, we've been eating flour for years. This can't be a bad thing, but they've really manipulated the way flour is made so that you're not really getting the same product that you used to, okay? You picture flour, you picture wheat rather, and you probably see the amber waves of grain. That's not what we get anymore, okay? This stuff has been modified to the point where it is now dwarf wheat. It comes up to about ankle height, and it's just not the same product anymore, okay? So they've modified it, modified it, and modified it so that it's a shadow of its former self. So what do we have in all of these cookies? Almost all of them have this unbleached flour in them. All of them have some kind of sugar in there. Cane sugar, cane sugar, cane sugar, cane sugar, cane sugar. Almost all, I think all of them have sugar. And I haven't seen one that doesn't have unbleached flour. Maybe this macaroon doesn't. It's got corn syrup though. So, there's stuff to watch out for in here, okay? So these are not the most impressive cookies that I've ever seen, all right? And the unbleached flour, like I said, I'm going to make that the topic of this conversation because we are talking about cookies. We're not talking about something that's optimal health to begin with. However, the more unbleached flour, the more flour in general, wheat flour that you can get out of your diet, the better off you're going to be, okay? So wheat causes an assortment of problems, okay? This is a carbohydrate. This is a starch that's going to spike insulin, that's going to raise your blood sugar, okay? These are things that we need to be aware of, things we need to watch out for. In fact, studies have been done that show that wheat flour can actually spike your insulin, spike your blood sugar higher and faster than a Snickers candy bar, okay? That's saying something, all right? So you're talking about a pure junk food product right there in the Snickers, that is causing a lot of problems. So if we're going to a gluten-free cookie, are we doing ourselves better? Maybe not, okay? So just because it says gluten-free, that might have been a smokescreen for some of these other stuff that's in here. So the unbleached flour, the flour, this is something we can replace, okay? So I'm not telling you never ever have a cookie again. I'm just saying, if you think this is, the mecca of cookies, I think we can do better. Store-bought, any kind of cookie that you buy, you're probably not going to get great products. There are a few out there that maybe are better than others, but for the most part, if you want a healthier version of a cookie, you're going to have to get in the kitchen and start baking yourself. I'm sorry to tell you, okay? So some good substitutes for flour that hardly any of these companies use would include coconut flour, okay? Coconut flour comes from coconuts. This is going to be not spiking that insulin and that blood sugar as much. Same goes for sprouted grains. You'll see sprouted grains sometimes in, for instance, Ezekiel bread. So this is sometimes a substitute as well. Oat flour, you've got rice flour, you've got almond flour, okay? So there's a number of substitutes that we can use, okay? Tapioca flour, chickpea flour, buckwheat flour, and last but not least, cricket powder. Yes, this is becoming popular now. Cricket powder. You heard it right. Chirp, chirp, the little crickets, you know, rubbing their lips together. They're grinding up crickets and they are making powder of it. And yes, as disgusting as that probably sounds to some of you, this is a better option. This is a, awesome source of protein. Crickets have 3 times the amount of protein as a sirloin steak, 2 times the amount of protein as chicken. So, for all of you who are big on your protein out there, maybe you ought to start gathering up some crickets. They do this in a very good and sustainable way, and they'll grind it up into powder, and it doesn't taste insecty or anything like that, so I'm told. I actually have not tried this yet, but it's something that's on my radar I'm very interested in, okay? So most of you are probably grossed out by that, but I gave you a whole list. The coconut, you got all these different options. Coconut powder, I said sprouted grains, oat flour, rice flour, almond flour. You got a lot of different options on flours that you could substitute when you're doing your baking, okay? I know not all of us are bakers. I know that's not your thing. But, if we're talking about a healthier cookie, this is what we have to go to. And this is what's hard to find in the marketplace. And this is where I think Tate's fell short, because there are options out there. They just didn't use them in their product, okay? So you've got the wheat flour, which is not so good. You've got the different sugar substitutes. And guess what? We can do better than cane sugar as well, okay? Cane sugar is going to spike that blood sugar. Once again, this blood sugar and the insulin levels are going to go high, and this is where we start to get these symptoms that lead to diabetes. If we can avoid this, if we can put some better ingredients in, we can start to avoid some of this stuff, okay? So what about some better sweeteners? You've got raw honey, you've got stevia, you've got dates, you've got coconut sugar. Once again, coconut sugar doesn't spike the glycemic index as high as a cane sugar or other sugars will do, and you've got maple syrup, okay? So these are better, better products. Let's keep it in mind. I'm going to remind you once again that these are all still sweeteners, all still sugars. Now, just because I'm saying they're better than the cane sugar, I don't mean you need to go hog wild and make yourself, tins and tins of these trays. Keep the health portion in perspective. They're cookies. They're cookies, people. They're still cookies, okay? So these are once in a while, maybe once at the end of a week, something like that. You don't need to have cookies every meal. You don't have cookies for dessert every day. That's just not, responsible if you're trying to live well, eat well, sustain your body well, have optimal health. It's not going to help you with weight loss, which I know a lot of you are interested in. So yeah, we've got to cut some of this stuff out. And Tate's gluten-free cookies, I'm sorry, is just not making the cut, okay? Very unimpressive ingredient list there. And maybe there are some better ones out there. Maybe you found them. Maybe you'd like me to review your favorite cookie of choice, okay? Tate's, I'll tell you, is probably, a step up from Oreo cookies and some of that kind of stuff. But, as far as we talk about cookies in general, I know a lot of the moms out there have figured this out, how to use these flour substitutes, how to use these sugar substitutes to make a healthier cookie. Healthier does not mean we can go ham on the cookies, but that being said, we can upgrade, okay? We can upgrade so you don't feel as guilty when you have a cookie, so you don't spike insulin as much when you have a cookie, so you don't get your blood sugar as increased when you have a cookie, okay? So hopefully that makes sense a little bit. Watch your labels, people, okay? Just because something says gluten-free, fat-free, sodium-free, low calorie, all this stuff, it's usually smokescreen because they're putting other ingredients in this product, stuff that you don't necessarily want in your body, stuff that you got to be aware of if you're trying to be super healthy, the best version of yourself. Is that what you're looking for? Then my friends, go to a better cookie alternative. You've got options out there. You might have to get out the baking sheet, but if you're not willing to do that, maybe just keep some vegetables in the house, and you might be angry when that sweet tooth hits, but I promise you, you'll be living better. It happens to me. I'll tell you for a fact that I do get the craving every once in a while to get something sweet, but since I don't keep it in my house, it's not an issue. Unless I go out and get it, now I'm stuck. I've made this inevitable for myself to be healthy because all I have access to is healthier foods. Frustrating in the moment, in the long term, helps you get to your goal. So that's my little rant. That's Tate's gluten-free cookies. That's my take on would you eat it this Wednesday. Let me know what you'd like to see. I will get it on a video for you. Talk to you soon.